All right, buckle up, everybody. We're going deep on cloud database management systems, cloud DBMS, if you want to sound cool. You know, Databricks is making noise, but how do they actually compare? Well, good news. We're using Gartner's Magic Quadrant today. They got Databricks right in that sweet leader spot, but, what does that even mean?
Leaders on the Magic Quadrant, it's not just a fancy label. Gartner's saying Databricks is executing like a champ right now. A&D, they've got a clear roadmap for the future.
Sounds promising.
But hold on. Before we get ahead of ourselves, let's back up. What even IS Cloud DBMS?
Yeah, for real. Break it down for us.
Think of it this way. It's all about storing and managing data, but using software that lives in the cloud. So no more giant server rooms taking up space.
So like streaming music instead of having a CD collection. Less physical stuff, more access.
You got it. But Cloud DBMS, it's way more versatile than just music. We're talking everything from those quick transactions you make online to the heavy lifting behind AI and machine learning.
No kidding. So this stuff is powering a lot of what we use every day.
Absolutely. It's a game changer for businesses of all sizes.
Okay, so cloud DBMS is a big deal. Databricks is supposedly one of the big dogs.
Right.
But the Magic Quadrant, there are other players in the game, right?
Of course. It's a 4-quadrant system. Leaders, challengers, visionaries, and then you've got your niche players.
Got it.
Gartner looks at 2 main things. First, how well a company can execute. Are their products good? Are their customers happy? Can they roll with the punches in the market?
Makes sense. So can they actually walk the walk?
Right. And second, how strong is their vision? Are they innovating? Do they get what the market needs? What's their overall strategy?
So basically, are they thinking ahead and planning for the future?
Exactly.
Okay, so leaders, they're doing great now, and I've got a solid plan for what's next. Makes sense. But let's circle back to Databricks. What are they doing that's making them stand out in such a crowded space?
One word, lakehouse. They're like the pioneers of this whole architecture, which is basically combining the best parts of data lakes and data warehouses.
Okay, so remind me. Data lakes, that's all about flexibility, right? Like storing all kinds of raw data.
Exactly. And data warehouses, they're all about structure, perfect for analytics.
Gotcha. So it's like the best of both worlds.
It really is. This is a big deal. This concept is catching on fast.
So it's kind of like having a giant toolbox where everything's organized, but you can also easily grab what you need for any project.
Perfect analogy. Think about a company with tons of data pouring in from everywhere. Website traffic, customer purchases, sensor data, the works.
Yeah, most companies have data coming out their ears these days.
Exactly. So with a lake house, you store all that raw data in the lake part, and then boom, you've got the warehouse tools to organize and analyze it without having to move it around.
Okay, yeah. That's way more efficient than the old way of doing things. No more data silos causing headaches.
You got it.
Now, Gartner mentioned this thing called Unity as a Databricks strong point. What's that all about?
Unity is Databricks' fancy way of saying unified data catalog. It's basically like a master index for all your data. Imagine you're a data scientist trying to find specific customer data for a new machine learning model.
Yeah, that could be a nightmare to track down.
Right. Instead of digging through a million different systems and spreadsheets, you can use Unity to find and access that data instantly. It doesn't even matter where it's stored.
Okay, that's a huge time saver for data professionals for sure.
It really is.
And I remember reading something about open table formats being another advantage of Databricks.
Right.
What's the benefit there?
So Databricks, they're all about open standards, especially when it comes to storing and accessing data.
Yeah.
They use open table formats, meaning the data isn't stuck in some proprietary system.
Oh, I see. So it's about freedom and flexibility.
Exactly. It's way easier to combine data from different sources and analyze it no matter what tools you're using.
So it's like everyone's speaking the same language, so no more translation issues.
You got it. This avoids getting locked in with one vendor. Companies have more control over their data, which is huge. It's a big win for data freedom.
Okay, Databricks is sounding pretty impressive. But Gartner did point out some potential downsides. What are those?
One thing they highlighted is the increasing number of other companies jumping on the lakehouse bandwagon. Databricks, they were the pioneers, but now the market's getting crowded.
Right.
To stay on top, they've got to keep innovating.
It's like striking gold. As soon as you find it, everyone rushes in trying to get a piece.
Exactly.
What other challenges might Databricks run into?
Well, pricing can be a bit of a sticking point. Gartner mentioned that their pricing model can be tough to understand and even harder to predict.
Yeah, unpredictable costs can be a nightmare.
For sure, especially for organizations working with a tight budget.
Anything else users should be aware of?
Some users have reported issues with the user interface, some inconsistencies that make it less intuitive and maybe a bit harder to use efficiently. And a smooth and user-friendly interface, that's essential, especially for data pros who need to work quickly and accurately.
All right, they need tools that don't slow them down.
Yeah.
So we've got a pretty good picture of Databricks, their strengths, their challenges, where they fit into the whole cloud DBMS world. But you mentioned competition heating up. Who are the other major players that Databricks has got to watch out for?
Oh, we've got some heavy hitters in the mix,
Mhm.
especially up in that leaders quadrant. Amazon Web Services, Snowflake, Google, Microsoft, Oracle, just to name a few. They all bring their own strengths and weaknesses to the table, which makes this whole thing even more interesting.
So it's a real battle of the titans. Okay, let's start with the 800-pound gorilla in the room, Amazon Web Services or AWS. What are their big advantages in this space?
AWS's strength really is their massive ecosystem of cloud services. They offer pretty much everything you could possibly need, basic computing power to crazy advanced machine learning tools. Plus, they're the dominant player in the market, which brings a certain level of, stability and trust.
Yeah, they're kind of a big deal. But there's got to be a catch, right? No one's perfect.
Oh, you're absolutely right. One challenge with AWS is that integrating all their different services can get pretty complex.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a headache.
With so many moving parts, things can get confusing and difficult to manage, especially for companies that don't have a whole team dedicated to the cloud.
So it's like having all the ingredients for a gourmet meal, but no recipe.
That's a great way to put it.
All right, so AWS, lots of power, but maybe not the easiest to handle. Now let's look at Snowflake, another big name in that leaders quadrant. They're known for being simple and user-friendly,
Right.
which honestly sounds pretty refreshing after talking about the potential complexity of AWS. What's their secret sauce?
Snowflake really shines because they're so easy to use and they can handle a bunch of different data formats.
Got it. So they're like the instant ramen of cloud DBMS. Quick, easy, gets the job done.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
But I'm guessing there's more to the story than just ease of use.
Of course, of course. One potential concern with Snowflake is cost forecasting, especially as your data needs grow. It can be tricky to predict your expenses accurately, which can make budgeting a pain.
Yeah, unexpected costs can really throw a wrench in your plans. What about some of the other big players like Google and Microsoft? Where do they fit into all of this?
Well, Google's got a strong portfolio of database services, including their big one, Cloud Spanner, which is built for serious scalability and availability. They've also been putting a lot of effort into integrating AI and machine learning into their solutions. They're really aiming for more intelligent and automated tools.
So Google's playing the long game, betting on AI to be the key difference maker.
Exactly. And then there's Microsoft with Azure. Their database services are really tightly integrated with their other cloud offerings. So if a company is already using Azure for other things, it's a natural fit.
Right, so if you're already in the Microsoft world, Azure makes things easier. What about Oracle? They've been in the database game forever.
Right.
Are they still relevant in this whole cloud-driven world?
Oh, absolutely. Oracle's still a major player, especially for those big enterprises with really complex data needs. They've got a long history of innovation and a deep understanding of database technology, which makes them a solid choice for those mission-critical applications.
Okay, so we've got AWS, Snowflake, Google, Microsoft, Oracle, and of course, Databricks. It's a real showdown of some seriously heavy hitters.
It really is.
And they each bring something different to the table, which makes choosing even more interesting.
Mhm.
So how do you even begin to decide which one is right for you?
The most important thing is to understand what each platform does well, what their limitations are, and how they line up with your specific needs and budget.
So it's not just about picking the coolest technology or the biggest name. You got to do your research and figure out what's the best fit for your specific situation.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment a little. Try out different solutions. Talk to some experts who can guide you through the process. The cloud DBMS market is changing all the time, so staying informed and adaptable is key.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Speaking of changes, we've talked about the big players and what they offer, but what about the bigger picture? What trends are shaping the future of cloud DBMS, and what should our listeners be prepared for?
Well, one trend that's already making big waves is AI and machine learning integration into cloud DBMS platforms. We're seeing more intelligent features that can automate tasks, optimize performance, and even help uncover insights that might have been missed by human analysts.
So we're talking about databases that are not just storing data, but actually learning from it and helping us make smarter decisions.
Exactly. And as AI and machine learning get more sophisticated, we can expect even more innovative features and capabilities in the cloud DBMS space.
That's pretty exciting and maybe a little bit intimidating.
Yeah, I can see that.
What other trends are worth paying attention to?
Another big shift is the move towards serverless computing. This is a game changer for businesses of all sizes. It lets them access the power of cloud DBMS without having to manage all the infrastructure behind it.
So it's like having a personal chef who takes care of all the cooking and cleaning and grocery shopping. You just enjoy the delicious meal.
Exactly. Serverless cloud DBMS, it means businesses don't have to worry about setting up servers, scaling, maintenance, security. The cloud provider handles all of that. This frees up IT teams to focus on more important strategic work.
So serverless is all about simplicity, flexibility, and saving money. Sounds like a pretty good deal. What are some of the other benefits of going serverless?
One of the biggest advantages is scalability. With serverless, you can automatically scale your database resources up or down based on your needs at that moment. This means you only pay for what you actually use, which can save a lot of money, especially for businesses with workloads that go up and down.
So it's like having a utility bill that adjusts based on your energy consumption. No more paying for unused capacity. What are some of the key things to consider when you're checking out serverless cloud DBMS options?
It's really important to look at the vendor's track record with serverless technology. You know, how mature is their platform, what kind of performance can you expect, and how do they handle security?
So not all serverless platforms are created equal. You got to do your research and choose a provider you can trust.
You got it. You also want to think about how much control and customization the platform offers. Some serverless solutions are more like a black box, meaning they don't give you much control over configurations or integrations with your existing systems.
Right. You need to make sure the serverless platform actually fits your needs and workflows. It's not just about offloading the infrastructure, it's about finding a solution that helps you do more with your data.
You hit the nail on the head. And another thing to consider is the ecosystem of tools and services that surround the serverless platform. Does it integrate well with your existing analytics tools, data visualization platforms, or machine learning frameworks?
So it's all about finding a solution that fits into your data ecosystem without creating more silos or headaches.
Exactly. The right serverless cloud DBMS solution should enhance your existing data workflows, not disrupt them.
Okay, so serverless is a major trend shaking things up in the cloud DBMS world. But there's another big shift happening that we need to talk about, the rise of open source technologies. How's open source impacting the cloud DBMS landscape?
Open source is playing a huge role in driving innovation and collaboration in cloud DBMS.
Yeah.
A lot of the leading solutions we've talked about, like Databricks and Snowflake, are built on open source technologies. They're leveraging the knowledge and contributions of a global community of developers.
So it's like tapping into a massive network of expertise and constantly pushing the limits of what's possible.
Precisely. Open source creates a culture of transparency and shared learning, which speeds up development and leads to more robust and feature-rich solutions.
But what about security and reliability? Open source software sometimes gets a bad reputation in those areas. Are those concerns valid?
It's a common misconception that open source is inherently less secure or reliable than proprietary software. Actually, because the code is open, it's constantly being reviewed by a huge community of developers. This often leads to faster identification and resolution of security vulnerabilities.
So it's like having thousands of eyes constantly checking the code for any potential weaknesses or bugs.
Exactly. Plus, a lot of open source cloud DBMS solutions offer enterprise-grade support options, so businesses can feel confident deploying these solutions for their most important systems.
That's good to know. So open source is becoming a really important force in cloud DBMS, driving innovation, collaboration, and cost-effective solutions.
Absolutely. And as the open source community continues to grow and mature, we can expect even more amazing advancements in the cloud DBMS space.
This is all incredibly fascinating. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the key players and their offerings to the major trends shaping the future of cloud DBMS. It's clear that this is a dynamic and rapidly evolving field.
It definitely is, and the pace of innovation shows no signs of slowing down.
Before we move on to our final segment, where we'll dive deeper into some specific cloud DBMS solutions, I want to give our listener a moment to reflect. What are your key takeaways so far? What has surprised you? What questions do you still have? Take a moment to gather your thoughts, and we'll be back in a few seconds to continue our deep dive.
You know, there are always those disruptors kind of waiting in the wings, especially in a field that's moving as fast as cloud DBMS.
Right, always someone trying to shake things up.
Exactly. And one company that's really turning heads is Cockroach Labs.
Cockroach Labs, okay, haven't heard of them?
They've got this platform, Cockroach DB, built on the idea of distributed SQL.
Distributed SQL, okay, that sounds pretty techy.
It is, but basically they're taking a familiar technology like PostgreSQL and making it seriously resilient and scalable for what we need today.
So they're taking something that's been around for a while, giving it a modern cloud makeover.
Exactly.
What makes their approach so special?
It all comes down to how they handle data distribution.
Okay.
With Cockroach DB, you can spread your data across multiple servers, even different geographic regions.
Oh, wow, so it's not all in one place.
Right, so it's super fault tolerant.
Fault tolerant meaning?
Like, if one server crashes, the data is still safe and accessible from the other location.
Oh, that's huge for businesses that can't afford any downtime.
Exactly. No one wants to see that dreaded website unavailable message.
Nope, definitely not.
Okay.
So fault tolerance is a big plus for Cockroach DB. What else is contributing to their success?
Well, they've been cloud native from the very beginning, so Cockroach DB is easy to deploy and manage on all the big cloud platforms, AWS, Google Cloud, Azure.
So they're playing nice with everyone.
They are. They are. It gives businesses the flexibility to choose the cloud infrastructure that works best for them and their budget.
So no vendor lock-in, that's smart.
Very smart.
Now you mentioned NoSQL databases earlier. There's a company called Couchbase that's focused on this area. What's their story?
Couchbase is all about flexibility and speed, especially for web and mobile applications.
Okay, I'm listening.
NoSQL databases, they're perfect for handling unstructured data. Think social media posts, sensor data, user profiles.
Okay, so stuff that doesn't fit neatly into rows and columns like traditional databases.
Exactly.
So if your data is more like a constant stream of information instead of a neatly organized spreadsheet, Couchbase could be a good fit.
You got it.
What are their strengths in the NoSQL world?
Their focus is really on mobile and embedded capabilities. Imagine you're building an app that needs to work offline sync data in real time and play nicely with different mobile platforms.
Yeah, that's a lot to juggle.
It is. But Couchbase, they excel in these scenarios. They're bringing the power of NoSQL to the palm of your hand.
So a database that can keep up with our always connected world.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. Now, we can't talk about innovative cloud DBMS solutions without mentioning graph databases. They're becoming more and more popular, and a company called Neo4j seems to be leading the charge. What's all the hype about?
Graph databases are all about relationships, understanding how different pieces of data are connected to each other.
Okay, give me an example.
Think of social networks. You've got people connected to friends who are connected to other friends, and so on.
Right, it's like a giant web of connections.
Exactly. Or think about recommendation engines. Products are linked based on what people have bought before and what they like.
So if your data is like a giant web of connections, a graph database like Neo4j is the tool you need to make sense of it all.
Exactly.
What makes Neo4j stand out in this space?
They've been pioneers in graph databases, constantly pushing the limits. They've got a mature product, a strong community of developers, and they're laser focused on performance and scalability.
Which is crucial for handling those complex webs of interconnected data.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got Databricks leading the pack with their lakehouse approach. Cockroach Labs disrupting the scene with distributed SQL Couchbase, specializing in NoSQL for the mobile world, and Neo4j mastering the art of graph databases. It's a pretty diverse and exciting landscape.
It really is. And it makes choosing the right solution even more challenging.
So how does someone even begin to navigate all of this and choose the right cloud DBMS solution?
The key is to remember there's no one-size-fits-all answer. It really depends on your specific needs. What kind of data are you working with? What are your performance requirements? How important is scalability? What's your budget? And even what skills does your team have?
So you're saying it's not just about picking the coolest technology or the biggest name. You've got to do your homework and figure out what really works best for you.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to experiment. Try different things. Talk to some experts who can help guide you. The cloud DBMS market is constantly evolving, so staying informed and adaptable is key.
Speaking of evolution, we've touched on some of the key players and what they offer. But what about the bigger picture? What trends are shaping the future of cloud DBMS, and what should our listener be prepared for?
One trend that's already having a big impact is the integration of AI and machine learning into cloud DBMS platforms. We're seeing more intelligent features that can automate tasks, optimize performance, and even help us discover insights that we might have missed on our own.
So we're talking about databases that aren't just storing data, but actually learning from it and helping us make smarter decisions.
Precisely. And as AI and machine learning get more sophisticated, we can expect even more amazing things from cloud DBMS.
That's exciting and maybe a little bit scary.
Yeah, I can see that.
What other trends should we be paying attention to?
Another big one is the move towards serverless computing. This is a game changer for businesses of all sizes. It lets them access the power of cloud DBMS without having to manage all of the infrastructure behind the scenes.
So it's like having a personal chef who takes care of all the cooking and cleaning and grocery shopping.
Yeah.
You just get to enjoy the delicious meal.
Exactly. Serverless cloud DBMS means businesses don't have to worry about setting up servers, scaling maintenance security. The cloud provider takes care of all that. This frees up IT teams to focus on more strategic work.
So serverless is all about simplicity, flexibility, and saving money. Sounds like a pretty sweet deal. What are some of the other benefits of going serverless?
Scalability is a big one. With serverless, you can automatically scale your database resources up or down depending on what you need at that moment. So you only pay for what you actually use, which can be a huge cost saving, especially for businesses that have workloads that fluctuate.
So it's like having a utility bill that changes based on how much energy you use.
Yeah.
No more paying for capacity you don't need.
Mhm.
What are some things people should keep in mind when they're evaluating serverless cloud DBMS options?
You really want to look at the vendor's track record with serverless technology. How mature is their platform? What kind of performance can you expect? And what are their security measures like?
So not all serverless platforms are created equal. You got to do your research and choose a provider you can trust.
Absolutely. You also want to think about how much control and customization the platform offers. Some serverless solutions are more like a black box and don't give you a lot of control over configurations or how they integrate with your existing systems.
Right. You need to make sure that the serverless platform actually works for you and your workflows. It's not just about getting rid of the infrastructure management. It's about finding a solution that helps you do more with your data.
Exactly. And another important thing to think about is the ecosystem of tools and services that come with the serverless platform. Does it integrate well with your existing analytics tools, data visualization platforms, or machine learning frameworks?
It's all about finding a solution that fits seamlessly into your data ecosystem, not creating more silos or headaches.
Exactly. The right serverless cloud DBMS solution should enhance your existing data workflows, not disrupt them.
Okay, so serverless is a major trend that's really changing things in the cloud DBMS world. But there's another big shift happening that we need to talk about, the rise of open source technologies. How is open source impacting the cloud DBMS landscape?
Open source is a major force in driving innovation and collaboration in cloud DBMS. Many of the leading solutions we've talked about, like Databricks and Snowflake, are built on open source technologies. They're using the knowledge and contributions of a global community of developers.
So it's like having access to a huge network of experts and always pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Exactly. Open source creates a culture of transparency and shared learning, which speeds up development and leads to more robust and feature-rich solutions.
But what about security and reliability? Open source software sometimes gets a bad reputation in those areas. Are those concerns valid?
It's a common misconception that open source is inherently less secure or reliable than proprietary software. Actually, because the code is open, it's constantly being reviewed by a large community of developers, which often leads to faster identification and resolution of security vulnerabilities.
So it's like having thousands of eyes constantly checking the code for any potential weaknesses or bugs.
Exactly. And many open source cloud DBMS solutions offer enterprise-grade support options, so businesses can feel confident using these solutions for their most important systems.
That's good to know. So open source is becoming a really important force in cloud DBMS, driving innovation, collaboration, and cost-effective solutions.
Absolutely. And as the open source community continues to grow and mature, we can expect even more amazing things from cloud DBMS.
This is all incredibly fascinating. We've covered a lot of ground, from the key players and what they offer to the major trends that are shaping the future of cloud DBMS. It's clear that this is a dynamic and rapidly evolving field.
It definitely is, and it doesn't seem like the innovation is going to slow down anytime soon.
Before we move on to the last part of our deep dive, where we'll take a closer look at some specific cloud DBMS solutions, I want to give our listeners a moment to think. What are your key takeaways from what we've discussed so far? What surprised you? What questions do you still have? Take a moment to gather your thoughts, and we'll be back in a few seconds to continue our exploration. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. Let's get down to brass tacks and look at some specific cloud DBMS solutions. We talked about Databricks and that leader spot they've got in Gartner's Magic Quadrant. But what does that actually mean when you're using their platform?
Databricks is all about that lakehouse architecture, combining the best of data lakes and data warehouses. It's a great fit for companies dealing with massive amounts of data from all over the place. It gives them one flexible platform to store, manage, and analyze all that info.
So if a company's grounding in data from their website, marketing, sales, even sensors on their devices, Databricks is like, come on in, the water's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just about storing the data. You can also easily transform it, clean it up, get it ready for analysis without having to move it around. That's a big deal. Less complexity, faster insights.
That's pretty appealing. But how user-friendly is Databricks? We mentioned those UI inconsistencies as a potential issue.
Databricks is really geared towards data engineers and data scientists, people who are comfortable with code and command line interfaces. Their UI has gotten better, but it's not as intuitive or drag and drop as some other platforms.
So maybe not for the casual data enthusiast who just wants to point and click their way to insights. What are some situations where Databricks really shines?
Machine learning is one area where they excel. They offer a whole suite of tools for building, training, and deploying machine learning models at scale. It's a popular choice for companies that want to use AI to automate things, personalize experiences, get a competitive edge.
So if you've got big data ambitions and you're ready to embrace AI and machine learning, Databricks is a strong contender. But what about those budget concerns? Is Databricks a good option for companies with limited resources?
That's where things get a little tricky. Databricks pricing can be complicated, sometimes unpredictable, especially as your data needs grow and you start using more of those advanced features. They do have different pricing tiers and options, but you really have to understand your usage patterns and project those costs before you jump in.
So powerful. Lots to offer, but maybe not the best fit for a startup on a tight budget. Let's move on to another big player, Amazon Web Services, or AWS. They're everywhere in the cloud world. What's their take on cloud DBMS?
AWS takes a broad approach. They offer a wide range of database services to cover pretty much everything. Relational databases, NoSQL, graph databases, in-memory databases, you name it. They even offer managed services for popular open source databases like MySQL and PostgreSQL.
So it's like a giant database buffet, take your pick.
Exactly. But with so many options, it can be tough to know where to start.
I can imagine. What are some of AWS's biggest strengths when it comes to cloud DBMS?
One of their biggest advantages is their infrastructure. They've been leading the cloud world for years. Their global network of data centers provides high availability, scalability, and security. And they've got a lot of expertise and a huge ecosystem of partners and tools.
So you're not just getting a database, you're getting a whole support system.
Exactly. AWS is a solid choice for companies that need a reliable and scalable platform with a lot of options and a strong support network.
We talked about some potential downsides, though, like the complexity of integrating all those different services. How much of a concern is that?
It's something to keep in mind, especially if you don't have a dedicated cloud team or a lot of experience with AWS. Managing all those services and making sure they work together seamlessly, that takes some serious technical know-how and ongoing effort.
Powerful, but maybe not the easiest to manage. Let's talk about Snowflake. They've been making a name for themselves with their focus on simplicity and user-friendliness. What's their secret?
Snowflake has gained a lot of fans by making things easy to use and focusing on performance. They offer a cloud-native data platform designed to handle a variety of data workloads, data warehousing, data science, app development. They've made it easy to get started, even for companies that don't have a ton of technical expertise.
So they're making cloud data more accessible for companies that don't have a whole team of data engineers.
Exactly. One thing that sets Snowflake apart is how they separate storage and compute. You can scale those two things independently, giving you more flexibility and control over your costs.
Sounds efficient. What other perks are there to using Snowflake?
Snowflake is known for its speed and performance, especially for complex queries and analytical workloads. They've also built a solid reputation for security and compliance, which is super important for companies handling sensitive data.
But we did mention some concerns about cost forecasting, especially as your data needs grow. How big of a deal is that?
It's something to keep an eye on, especially if you expect your data to grow significantly in the future. Snowflake's pricing is based on how much you use, so as your data volume and query complexity go up, so do your costs. You got to monitor your usage and really understand your budget.
So a lot of power and flexibility, but watch those costs. We've explored three big names in Cloud DBMS, Databricks, AWS, and Snowflake. Any final thoughts or advice for someone trying to pick the right solution?
Honestly, there's no magic answer. The best cloud DBMS solution depends on your specific needs, your data challenges, your budget, and the skills of your team. Don't be afraid to ask questions, try out different platforms, and talk to some experts who can help you navigate all this.
Excellent advice. Cloud DBMS is a big, constantly evolving world. But with some effort and a willingness to learn, you can find the perfect solution to unlock the power of your data. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Cloud DBMS. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember, the world of data is full of possibilities. Stay curious, keep exploring, and let your data be your guide. Until next time, happy data diving.
That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. And remember, I love you all.